Hey folks, this is Brian. Doing the second part of my commentary on all the things football in LA. As far as what's going on with the new stadium situation or whatever. And today I'm doing on the history of the Rams here in LA. And before I get to that, the last 24 hours we just heard the word that the Inglewood City Council voted to approve the fund unanimously to approve the funding for and starting construction on the new stadium down at the Hollywood Park site. So, if things go according to plan, 2016 the Rams move here and play at a temporary site, either the Coliseum where he played for years, the Rose Bowl, or maybe in Dodger Stadium, as temporary digs. But right now, and then in 2018, moved the team to the new stadium. So, keep your fingers crossed if you're a Rams fan or out here in LA or anywhere west of Mississippi. So, my commentary tonight is going to be on the history of the Rams here, or history of the Rams here in LA. And it's one that's very interesting, it's very crazy, so bear with me. It began in 1946 when the Rams moved out here, and immediately after winning the 1946 NFL Championship in Cleveland, and they became the first team to win an NFL Championship that moved to another city. And plus, they paved the way for teams like the Dodgers, the Lakers, Dodgers and Lakers moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. So, and that whole westward expansion as pro sports. And they were doing very well out here. They went to 5 consecutive NFL championship games, winning the 1951 NFL championship. In the pre-Super Bowl days, they were perennial contenders every year, from the 1950s on up to the 1970s. Of course, with the fierce with Norm Van Brocklin quarterbacking during the 50s, and of course in the 60s you had the greatest defensive line in history, Rosie Greer, and of course the late greats, Deacon Jones, Marlon Olson, Lamar Lundy, the fearsome foursome. Needless to say more. Well, interestingly, in 1972, the team was bought by a gentleman by the name of Robert Irsay. Mr. Irsay, of course, then decided, right after he bought the team, to trade his ownership of the Rams to a gentleman by the name of Carroll Rosenbloom, who was the owner of the Baltimore Colts. And Rosenbloom got not just the Rams, but cash, and he got ownership of the Rams, while old man Irsay got the ownership of the Baltimore Colts. And of course, we all know what that old drunkard did, moving the Colts from Baltimore, where they were loved, to Indianapolis. But I digress. Anyway, the Rams still continue to do well in the 70s, winning 6 consecutive NFC West titles, and making it to the NFC Championship game almost perennially, where they would get beat either by the Dallas Cowboys or the Minnesota Vikings. Ugh. Then, in 1979, in the late 1970s, Rosenbloom decided to leave the Coliseum and move to the city of Anaheim and share Anaheim Stadium after it had been reconfigured, redone, remodeled for football, to host football and baseball. Share it with the California Angels, or of course now the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. But unfortunately, before he was able to see that move. He died. He drowned under very mysterious circumstances. He was on vacation in Florida, swam just off the coast, and drowned in 4 feet of water. Now, of course, there's speculation as to what really happened. Of course, one theory is that he was heavily in debt to the mob for gambling debts, and that was covered on a PBS special several years ago. And the other theory is that his then wife, Georgia Frontiere, or Georgia Rosenblum, now later Frontiere, she had something to do with it because he was about to dump her, divorce her, and write her out of his will. Well, after Rosenblum died, Georgia, or as certain people called her, Madame Ram, with emphasis on the dam, took over the team and pretty much began a series of moves that were very controversial. First off, she fired her stepson, Steve Rosenblum, who was being groomed as the owner, was going to be groomed as the owner of the team. Steve, and then in her first another controversial move, she traded away Vince Ferragamo, who all pretty much came close to leading the Rams to victory in Super Bowl 14. She traded him. She got rid of him because he dared to want to renegotiate his contract, and he went to Canada for a few years. Then the Rams drafted Eric Dickerson, probably one of the greatest running backs of all time. In fact, of course, he holds the single season record for most yards in a season. Still does. In 1986, he too was trying to renegotiate his contract. And one of the most controversial moves of her life, she traded Eric Dickerson away for a bunch of draft picks, many of whom she traded him to the Indianapolis Colts for a bunch of draft picks, ironically to the Indianapolis Colts. And most of those picks were busts. They were, and with the exception of one player, that was Darrell Henley, and who was an all-pro, but unfortunately, he decided he didn't want to become a better pro football player. He wanted to be Nino Brown, and got involved in a multi-million-dollar drug operation. And after that trade, the team began going downhill. Of course, they had a bad quarterback in Jim the Ballerina Everett, or as Jim Rome called him, Chris Everett. Then, of course, in then, of course, this caused the attendance to start going downhill, and the fans were going in. And a lot of other things were going on. Georgia stopped, doing community outreach meetings, stopped going to hospitals, doing promotion for the team, and the attendance for the team started going down, further downhill. And in 1993 came the first rumblings that the Rams were going to be leaving to go to the city of Baltimore, ironically enough. And then in 1994 came the announcement that the Rams were going to be moving to St. Louis. And this was, of course, due to Georgia basically poisoning. It wasn't the fans who turned on the team. It was Georgia turning back on the fans, and basically telling them, basically poisoning the fans against the team so they wouldn't show up anymore. So that is how the Rams wound up leaving LA. And of course, the Rams won a Super Bowl, went to 2 Super Bowls. One was, of course, when they beat the Tennessee Titans in the very last seconds of the game, and the other one, and I was screaming and hollering when this happened, when the Rams when Anna Vinatieri, who I hope gets in the Hall of Fame from one day, kicked the last second field goal to give the New England Patriots their first Super Bowl win. And the Rams had some more success over there, but now, of course, their situation in St. Louis has pretty much gotten them to the point where we're probably going to be leaving to come back out here. So that's the history of the Rams. Now, in my next commentary, I'll probably be talking about the Raiders and how they pretty much everything was crazy with them. And of course, thanks to Al Davis and his nuttiness, that's a different story for different episode. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this commentary. And sorry it's a little long, but I had to go into the history of the whole thing. So, anyway, take care. Peace out.